An unexpected greeting. Captain Zach Thompson stood on the bridge of the UES Endeavour, his eyes fixed on the massive alien vessel that dominated the viewscreen. The ship was a sleek, obsidian-black behemoth, easily dwarfing the human explorer craft. Zach felt a mix of awe and apprehension as he contemplated the significance of this moment, humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization. "They're hailing us, sir," Lieutenant Emma Nakamura, the communications officer, reported. Zach nodded. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, revealing a trio of alien beings. They were tall and slender, with skin that shimmered like polished silver. Their eyes were large and luminous, set above angular cheekbones and thin, stern lips. Each wore an elaborate headdress adorned with glittering gems and intricate metalwork. The alien in the center spoke, its voice deep and resonant. "I am High Counselor Zoloth of the Zephyrian Empire. You have encroached upon our sovereign territory. State your identity and purpose." Zach stepped forward, a friendly smile on his face. "Greetings, High Counselor Zoloth. I'm Captain Zach Thompson of the United Earth Ship Endeavour. We come in peace, on a mission of exploration and diplomacy." Xyloth's eyes narrowed. "Your primitive vessel is hardly equipped for such lofty goals. The Zephyrian Empire spans 1,000 star systems. What can your fledgling species possibly offer us?" "Well, for starters," Zach replied, his grin widening, "we make a mean cup of coffee. And trust me, once you've tried it, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it." The bridge crew stifled their laughter as the Zephyrians exchanged confused looks. Xyloth leaned forward, his voice lowering to a menacing growl. "Do you mock us, Captain? The Zephyrian Empire is not to be trifled with." Zach held up his hands in a placating gesture. "Not at all, High Counselor. It's just that we humans have a saying, laughter is the best medicine. And given the vastness of the universe, sometimes a little humor helps keep things in perspective." Xyloth sat back, his expression unreadable. "Your species is peculiar. We will consider your request for diplomacy. In the meantime, you are permitted to orbit our capital world. Do not attempt to land or send any shuttles without our express permission." "Understood, High Counselor," Zach replied, inclining his head respectfully. "We look forward to learning more about your magnificent empire." As the view screen winked out, Zach turned to his crew, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Well, that went better than expected. Looks like we've got our foot in the door." Commander Lena Sorensen, the Endeavour's first officer, raised an eyebrow. "With all due respect, sir, are you sure cracking jokes was the best approach?" The Zephyrians didn't seem particularly amused. "Sometimes, Lena," Zach said, clapping her on the shoulder, "the best way to break the ice is with a well-timed quip. Besides, did you see the look on Xyloth's face when I mentioned coffee? I think we've already got them intrigued." As the Endeavour settled into orbit around the Zephyrian homeworld, Zach couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Humanity had come so far, from the early days of space exploration to now, standing on the brink of a new era of interstellar diplomacy. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew that the indomitable human spirit would see them through. Over the next few hours, the crew of the Endeavour worked tirelessly to gather information about the Zephyrian Empire. They pored over the data collected by their sensors, marveling at the advanced technology and vast infrastructure that stretched across the alien civilization's many worlds. As Zach studied a holographic map of Zephyrian space, Emma's voice piped up from the communication station. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the surface. It's High Counselor Xyloth." "Put it through," Zach ordered, straightening his uniform. Xyloth's silver visage filled the view screen once more. "Captain Thompson," he began, his tone formal but not entirely unfriendly. "The Zephyrian High Council has considered your request for diplomacy. We have decided to grant you an audience at our capital citadel. A delegation will be permitted to beam down for negotiations." Zach nodded, his heart racing with anticipation. "Thank you, High Counselor, we're honored by this opportunity. Do not squander it, Xyloth warned. The Zephyrian Empire does not extend such invitations lightly. We expect your delegation to comport itself with the utmost respect and decorum. Of course, Zack assured him. We'll be on our best behavior. Cross my heart and hope to fly. Xyloth's brow furrowed in confusion at the unfamiliar idiom, but he chose not to comment on it. A shuttle will be dispatched to your location shortly. Xyloth out. As the view screen went blank, Zack turned to his crew, rubbing his hands together eagerly. All right, people, this is it. Our chance to make history. Lena, Emma, Chief Engineer Takeshi Sato, you're with me. The rest of you, keep the ship running smoothly and be ready for anything. The selected team members nodded, determination etched on their faces. They knew the stakes were high, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the shuttle carried the human delegation down to the surface of the Zephyrian homeworld, Zack couldn't help but marvel at the alien cityscape that stretched out before them. Towering spires of gleaming metal pierced the clouds, while sleek aircars zipped through the skyways like glittering beetles. The shuttle touched down on a landing pad adjacent to an imposing structure that could only be the capital citadel. As the humans disembarked, they were greeted by a contingent of Zephyrian guards, their armor shimmering in the dim light. "Follow me," one of the guards instructed, his voice cold and clipped. "The High Council awaits your presence." Zack and his team fell into step behind the guards, their footsteps echoing on the polished stone floor as they were led into the heart of the citadel. They passed through grand hallways lined with intricate murals and towering statues, each one a testament to the power and majesty of the Zephyrian Empire. At last, they reached a massive set of doors that swung open to reveal a cavernous chamber. Inside, seated upon a raised dais, were the members of the Zephyrian High Council, their silver skin glinting in the soft light. High Counselor Xyloth stood at the center of the dais, his gaze fixed upon the human delegation. "Step forward, Captain Thompson," he intoned, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Let us begin these negotiations and see what your species has to offer the Zephyrian Empire." Zack took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders as he stepped forward to meet the challenge head-on. The future of humanity rested on his shoulders, but he was ready to face it with the same determination, ingenuity, and indomitable spirit that had carried his species to the stars. And if all else failed, he still had his secret weapon, a thermos of the finest earth-roasted coffee, ready to win over even the most stoic of alien diplomats. With a smile tugging at his lips, Zack began to speak, ready to forge a new path for humanity in the vast expanse of the universe. A meeting of minds. As Zack stepped forward to address the Zephyrian High Council, he couldn't help but feel a sense of nervousness mixed with excitement. This was a moment that would be remembered in history books for generations to come. The first time a human had stood before the leaders of an advanced alien civilization. "Esteemed members of the Zephyrian High Council," Zack began, his voice steady and confident. "On behalf of the United Earth Federation, I thank you for granting us this audience. We come to you not as conquerors or supplicants, but as equals, seeking to forge a bond of friendship and cooperation between our two species." High Counselor Xyloth leaned forward, his silver eyes glinting in the soft light of the chamber. "Bold words, Captain Thompson. But what can your species offer us? The Zephyrian Empire has stood for 1,000 generations, our technology and knowledge far surpassing anything your primitive civilization could hope to achieve." Zack smiled, undaunted by the High Counselor's dismissive tone. "You're right, High Counselor. The Zephyrian Empire is indeed impressive. But there's one thing that humanity has in abundance, something that has allowed us to overcome countless obstacles and challenges throughout our history." "And what is that?" Xyloth asked, a hint of curiosity in his voice. "Ingenuity," Zack replied, his eyes sparkling with pride. "The ability to think outside the box, to find creative solutions to even the most daunting of problems. It's a trait that has served us well, from our earliest days of exploration to our current journey among the stars. The High Council members exchanged glances, murmuring amongst themselves. Zilaf held up a hand, silencing them. An intriguing claim, Captain. But words are cheap. How do you propose to demonstrate this supposed ingenuity of yours? Zack glanced at his team, a sly grin playing at the corners of his mouth. I thought you'd never ask. With a nod to Chief Engineer Takeshi Sato, Zack watched as the skilled technician stepped forward, a small device clutched in his hands. Takeshi placed the device on the floor before the High Council, then stepped back, a look of anticipation on his face. This, Zack explained, is a portable matter replicator. Using advanced 3D printing technology and a library of molecular templates, it can create virtually any object on demand, from tools and spare parts to food and medical supplies. The High Council members leaned forward, their interest piqued. Zilaf, however, remained skeptical. A matter replicator. Such devices are hardly new to the Zephyrian Empire. What makes yours so special? Ah, but that's where our ingenuity comes in, Zack replied, his grin widening. You see, our replicator isn't just a one-trick pony. It's been designed to learn and adapt, to improve upon its own designs based on user feedback and environmental factors. In essence, it's not just a tool, it's a problem-solving companion. To demonstrate, Takeshi tapped a few commands into the replicator's control panel. The device hummed to life, its surface shimmering as it began to construct a small, intricate object. Within moments, a perfectly formed cog lay on the chamber floor, its edges gleaming in the soft light. Impressive, Zilaf admitted, picking up the cog and turning it over in his hands. But hardly groundbreaking. True, Zack conceded, but that's just the beginning. The real magic happens when the replicator encounters a problem it hasn't seen before. Takeshi tapped a few more commands, and the replicator set to work once again. This time, however, the device seemed to struggle, its surface flickering and sputtering as it tried to construct a complex, multi-part object. Just when it seemed the replicator would fail, however, something remarkable happened. The device paused, its internal systems whirring as it analyzed the problem. Then, with a sudden burst of activity, it began to construct the object anew, its surface shimmering with renewed purpose. Within moments, a small, intricate machine lay on the chamber floor, its gears and levers moving in perfect synchronicity. The High Council members gasped, their eyes wide with wonder. How? How did it do that? One of the counselors asked, her voice trembling with awe. Ingenuity, Zack replied, his voice filled with pride. The replicator encountered a problem it hadn't seen before, so it did what humans do best. It adapted. It analyzed the problem, broke it down into its component parts, and found a creative solution. Zilaf picked up the machine, turning it over in his hands. Remarkable, he breathed, his silver eyes gleaming with newfound respect. Your species possesses a rare gift, Captain Thompson, one that could be of great value to the Zephyrian Empire. Zack nodded, his heart swelling with pride. We're willing to share our knowledge and technology with you, High Counselor. All we ask in return is the chance to learn from you, to exchange ideas, and work together towards a brighter future for both our species. Zilaf exchanged glances with his fellow counselors, a silent conversation passing between them. At last, he turned back to Zack, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. The Zephyrian Empire is not accustomed to partnering with other species, Captain. But in light of what you've shown us today, we are willing to make an exception. Let us adjourn to the negotiation chambers and discuss the terms of our new alliance. As the human delegation followed the High Council out of the chamber, Zack couldn't help but feel a sense of elation. They had done it. They had taken the first step towards forging a bond of friendship between humanity and the Zephyrian Empire. And as they walked, Zack's hand brushed against the thermos of coffee tucked away in his pack. He smiled to himself, knowing that the best was yet to come. With a little ingenuity and a lot of determination, There was no limit to what their two species could achieve together. The negotiation chambers were a marvel of Zephyrian architecture, with soaring ceilings and walls adorned with intricate murals depicting the long and storied history of the Empire. At the center of the room stood a massive table, its surface inlaid with glowing symbols that pulsed and shifted in hypnotic patterns. As the human delegation took their seats across from the Zephyrian High Council, Zack couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the magnitude of the moment. Here they were, two species from opposite ends of the galaxy, coming together to forge a new future. High Counselor Zolath was the first to speak, his silver eyes fixed on Zack. "Captain Thompson," he began, his voice filled with a new note of respect. "Your demonstration of human ingenuity has impressed us greatly. The Zephyrian Empire is willing to enter into an alliance with the United Earth Federation, but there are certain terms and conditions that must be met." Zack nodded, his expression serious. "Of course, High Counselor. We're willing to listen and negotiate in good faith." Zolath tapped a few commands into the table's control panel, and a holographic display sprang to life above its surface. "First and foremost," he said, gesturing to the image of a planet rotating slowly in the air, "the Zephyrian Empire requires access to certain rare minerals found only in the outer reaches of your territory. In exchange, we are willing to share our advanced propulsion technology with you, allowing your ships to travel faster and farther than ever before." Zack leaned forward, studying the holographic display. "An intriguing offer," he mused. "But those minerals are crucial to our own technological development. We can't just give them away without getting something of equal value in return." Zolath's eyes narrowed, but Zack held up a hand before he could speak. "However," he continued, "we might be willing to enter into a joint mining operation. Our engineers could work alongside yours to extract the minerals, while also learning from your advanced techniques. In return, we would retain a portion of the minerals for our own use." The High Counselor considered the proposal for a moment, then nodded slowly. "A fair compromise," he admitted. "The Zephyrian Empire is not accustomed to sharing its resources, but in the spirit of our new alliance, we are willing to make an exception." Zack smiled, feeling a surge of relief wash over him. They were making progress, finding common ground where none had existed before. As the negotiations continued, Zack and his team worked tirelessly to hammer out the details of the alliance. Trade agreements were forged, cultural exchange programs established, and scientific collaborations initiated. It was a historic moment, one that would be remembered for generations to come. But even as the talk stretched on into the night, Zack never lost sight of his ultimate goal. He knew that true friendship couldn't be bought or bargained for. It had to be earned through trust, respect, and a willingness to see beyond their differences. And so, as the final agreement was signed and the human delegation prepared to depart, Zack knew that their work was far from over. They had taken the first steps towards building a lasting bond between their two species, but the road ahead would be long and challenging. But Zack was ready for whatever lay ahead. With a smile on his face and a thermos of coffee in his hand, he stepped out into the bright Zephyrian sunlight, ready to face the future with the same determination and ingenuity that had brought them this far. And as the shuttle lifted off, carrying the human delegation back to the Endeavor, Zack knew that they had made history. They had shown the universe that even the most unlikely of allies could find common ground, and that together, anything was possible. It was a lesson that Zack would carry with him for the rest of his life, a reminder that no matter how vast and strange the universe might be, there was always room for laughter, friendship, and the indomitable human spirit. A test of unity. As the human delegation returned to the Endeavor, they were greeted with cheers and applause from the rest of the crew. News of their successful negotiations with the Zephyrian Empire had spread quickly, and the ship was abuzz with excitement and anticipation. But even as they celebrated their historic achievement, Zack couldn't shake the feeling that their troubles were far from over. He had seen the look in High Counselor Zolath's eyes during the negotiations, a hint of reluctance, a glimmer of doubt. It was clear that not everyone in the Zephyrian Empire was thrilled about the idea of partnering with humanity. His fears were confirmed a few days later when a distress signal from a Zephyrian outpost near the border of their territory. The outpost had come under attack from an unknown force, and the local garrison was struggling to hold them off. Zack wasted no time in ordering the Endeavor to set a course for the outpost. As the ship hurtled through space, he gathered his senior staff in the briefing room to assess the situation. "What do we know about the attackers?" he asked, his brow furrowed with concern. Lina Sorensen, the ship's first officer, shook her head. "Not much, sir. The distress signal was garbled, but it seems to be a heavily armed force with advanced weapons and ships. Definitely not raiders or pirates." Zack nodded grimly. "A rogue faction, then. Probably not too happy about the idea of the Zephyrian Empire allying with us." Takeshi Sato, the chief engineer, spoke up. "Captain, I've been analyzing the data from the outpost's sensors. It looks like the attackers are using some kind of energy weapon we've never seen before. It's cutting through the outpost's shields like they're not even there." Zack's eyes widened. "That's not good. We need to get there fast, before it's too late." As the Endeavor dropped out of warp near the outpost, the bridge crew gasped at the sight that greeted them. The outpost was in ruins, its once gleaming towers reduced to smoldering rubble. A handful of Zephyrian ships still circled the station, firing desperately at the attackers, but they were hopelessly outmatched. "Hail the lead Zephyrian ship," Zack ordered, his voice tight with tension. A moment later, the view screen flickered to life, revealing the haggard face of a Zephyrian commander. "Captain Thompson," he said, his voice strained. "Thank the stars you're here. We're losing ships fast, and our weapons are useless against their shields." Zack nodded grimly. "We'll do what we can to help, Commander. But I need you to tell me everything you know about these attackers." The commander shook his head. "Not much, I'm afraid. They came out of nowhere, hit us hard and fast. Their ships are like nothing I've ever seen before, sleek, black, and bristling with weapons. And their energy weapons, they're like nothing we've ever encountered." Zack exchanged a glance with Lina, his mind racing. "All right, Commander, we'll take it from here. Pull your ships back and regroup. We'll try to buy you some time." As the Zephyrian ships limped away from the battle, Zack turned to his crew. "All right, people. We need a plan, and we need it fast. Any ideas?" For a moment, there was silence on the bridge. Then, Emma Nakamura spoke up. "What about the replicator?" she said, her eyes wide with excitement. "We could use it to create a new kind of weapon, something the attackers have never seen before." Takeshi nodded eagerly. "She's right, Captain. With the replicator's adaptive learning algorithms, we might be able to come up with something that can penetrate their shields." Zack hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right, let's do it. Takeshi, Emma, get down to engineering and start working on a design. Lina, you're with me. We need to buy them some time." As the Endeavor charged into battle, Zack felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. The attackers were good, their ships darting and weaving through space with incredible speed and precision. But the Endeavor was better, her crew working together like a well-oiled machine. For what felt like hours, they traded blows with the enemy ships, dodging and weaving through a hail of energy bolts and missiles. The Endeavor's shields held, but Zack knew they couldn't last forever. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, Teichi's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, we've got it," he exclaimed, his voice filled with excitement. "The replicator has created a new kind of energy weapon, one that should be able to penetrate their shields." Zack grinned, feeling a surge of relief wash over him. "Great work, Takeshi. Send the schematics to the tactical station. Lina, get ready to fire on my mark." As the new weapon powered up, Zack felt a sense of anticipation building in his chest. This was it, the moment of truth. If the weapon worked, they might just have a chance of stopping the attackers and saving the outpost. The view screen lit up as the weapon fired, a blinding beam of energy lancing out towards the nearest enemy ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship's shields flickered and died, and the beam tore through its hull like tissue paper. The bridge crew erupted in cheers as the enemy ship exploded in a ball of flame. Zack grinned, feeling a sense of pride and relief wash over him. They had done it. They had turned the tide of the battle, and given the Zephyrians a fighting chance. But even as they celebrated their victory, Zack knew that the battle was far from over. The attackers were still out there, and they would stop at nothing to destroy the alliance between humanity and the Zephyrian Empire. As the Endeavor mopped up the remaining enemy ships, Zack turned to Lena, his expression serious. "This is just the beginning," he said, his voice grave. "We've made some powerful enemies today, and they won't rest until they've torn down everything we've built." Lena nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "We'll be ready for them, Captain. Whatever it takes, we'll protect this alliance and ensure a brighter future for both our species." Zack smiled, feeling a sense of pride and gratitude wash over him. He knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but with his crew by his side, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And so, as the Endeavor set course for the Zephyrian homeworld to report on their victory, Zack couldn't help but feel a sense of hope and optimism for the future. They had taken the first steps towards building a lasting bond between their two species, and nothing, not even a rogue faction of terrorists, could stand in their way. As they entered orbit around the Zephyrian capital, Zack took a moment to reflect on all that had happened. In just a few short days, they had gone from tentative first contact to full-blown allies, fighting side by side against a common enemy. It was a testament to the power of ingenuity and determination, the very qualities that made humanity such a force to be reckoned with. And as he looked out at the glittering spires of the Zephyrian citadel, Zack knew that this was just the beginning of a grand new adventure. With a smile on his face and a sense of purpose in his heart, he stepped out onto the transporter pad, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and he couldn't wait to explore them all, together with his new friends and allies. Ingenuity in action. As Zack materialized in the grand hall of the Zephyrian citadel, he was immediately greeted by a contingent of high-ranking officials, led by none other than High Counselor Zilaf himself. The Zephyrian leader looked weary but relieved, his silver robes shimmering in the soft light of the hall. "Captain Thompson," Zilaf said, his voice filled with gratitude. "On behalf of the Zephyrian Empire, I thank you for your timely intervention. Your actions today have saved countless lives and prevented a great tragedy." Zack nodded, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment wash over him. "We were happy to help, High Counselor. That's what allies do." Zilaf's expression grew serious. "Indeed. But I fear that today's attack was only the beginning. The rogue faction that seeks to destroy our alliance will not rest until they have achieved their goals." Zack frowned, his mind already racing with possibilities. "What can you tell us about this faction, High Counselor? Who are they, and what do they want?" Zilaf hesitated for a moment, then signaled for the other officials to leave the room. Once they were alone, he turned back to Zack, his expression grave. "They call themselves the Zephyrian Liberation Front," he said, his voice low and urgent. "They are a group of extremists who believe that the Zephyrian Empire has grown weak and complacent, and that allying with other species will only hasten our downfall." Zack nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. "And what do they hope to achieve by attacking outposts and ships?" "They seek to sow chaos and discord," Zilaf replied. "To turn the people against the High Council and the alliance we have forged. They believe that only through conflict and conquest can the Zephyrian Empire reclaim its former glory." Zack shook his head, feeling a sense of disgust and anger wash over him. "They're fanatics," he said, his voice hard. "And they must be stopped before they can do any more damage." Zilaf nodded, his expression grim. "Agreed, but it will not be easy. The Liberation Front is well-funded and well-equipped, with spies and sympathizers in every level of our government and military. Rooting them out will require great skill and cunning." Zack's eyes gleamed with a sudden spark of inspiration. "What if we use their own tactics against them?" he said, his voice growing excited. "What if we could find a way to turn their own technology and resources against them, and expose their true nature to the people of the Zephyrian Empire?" Xylet's eyes widened, and a slow smile spread across his face. "An intriguing idea, Captain. But how would we accomplish such a feat?" Zack grinned, his mind already racing with possibilities. "With a little ingenuity and a lot of determination," he said, his voice filled with confidence. "Here's what I propose." Over the next several hours, Zack and Xylet worked together to devise a plan to infiltrate and undermine the Liberation Front. Using the advanced technology of the Endeavor's replicator, they created a series of sophisticated spy drones and listening devices, each one designed to gather intelligence on the front's activities and expose their true motives to the Zephyrian people. At the same time, Takeshi and the engineering team worked to reverse engineer the front's advanced energy weapons, seeking to find a way to neutralize their devastating power. It was a daunting task, but with the help of Zephyrian scientists and engineers, they made steady progress. As the days turned into weeks, the Endeavor's crew and their Zephyrian allies worked tirelessly to implement their plan. Spy drones infiltrated the front's secret bases, and listening devices captured damning conversations between front leaders, revealing their true goals and the depths of their treachery. Slowly but surely, public opinion began to turn against the front. More and more Zephyrians came to see them for what they truly were, a dangerous and destructive force that threatened the very fabric of their society. And when the time came for the final confrontation, the Endeavor and the Zephyrian fleet were ready. Armed with Takeshi's reverse-engineered energy weapons and a renewed sense of purpose, they launched a coordinated assault on the front's main stronghold, a heavily fortified base hidden deep within an asteroid field. The battle was fierce and brutal, with both sides trading blows and suffering heavy casualties. But in the end, the combined might of the Endeavor and the Zephyrian fleet proved too much for the front to handle. Their ships were destroyed, their leaders captured, and their stronghold reduced to rubble. As Zack stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, watching the last of the front's ships explode in a ball of flame, he felt a sense of relief and satisfaction wash over him. They had done it. They had beaten the odds and emerged victorious, thanks to the power of human ingenuity and the strength of their alliance. But even as they celebrated their triumph, Zack knew that their work was far from over. The Zephyrian Empire was still reeling from the effects of the front's attacks, and there was much rebuilding to be done. In the weeks and months that followed, Zack and his crew worked tirelessly alongside their Zephyrian allies to repair the damage and forge a new future for both their species. Trade routes were re-established, cultural exchange programs were expanded, and scientific collaborations reached new heights. And through it all, Zack never lost sight of the lessons he had learned during his time in the Zephyrian Empire. He had seen firsthand the power of ingenuity and determination, and the importance of standing together in the face of adversity. As he looked out at the stars from the observation deck of the Endeavor, Zack couldn't help but feel a sense of hope and optimism for the future. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and he knew that as long as humanity and the Zephyrian Empire stood together, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. With a smile on his face and a sense of purpose in his heart, he turned back to his crew, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but he knew that with ingenuity, determination, and a little bit of luck, they would always find a way to prevail. And as the Endeavor set course for its next adventure, Zack couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and anticipation building in his chest. The future was bright, and he couldn't wait to see what it had in store. A new era. As the dust settled from the final battle with the Zephyrian Liberation Front, Captain Zack Thompson and his crew found themselves hailed as heroes throughout the Zephyrian Empire. News of their bravery and ingenuity spread like wildfire, and soon the name of the UES Endeavour was on the lips of every Zephyrian citizen. For Zach, it was a humbling experience. He had never sought fame or glory, only to do what was right and protect those who needed it most. But he couldn't deny the sense of pride he felt every time he saw a Zephyrian child's eyes light up at the mention of his name, or heard a Zephyrian elder speak of the Endeavour with reverence and respect. In the weeks that followed, Zach and his crew worked tirelessly alongside their Zephyrian allies to rebuild what had been lost in the conflict. They used the Endeavour's advanced technology to help reconstruct damaged infrastructure, provide medical aid to the injured, and assist in the relocation of displaced citizens. But even as they worked to heal the physical wounds of the war, Zach knew that the emotional scars would take much longer to fade. The Zephyrian Empire had been shaken to its core by the actions of the Liberation Front, and many citizens were still struggling to come to terms with the betrayal of their own people. It was during this time of rebuilding and reflection that High Counselor Zilaf approached Zach with a startling revelation. "Captain Thompson," he said, his voice heavy with emotion, "there is something I must tell you, something that I believe may hold the key to ensuring lasting peace between our two species." Zach leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. "What is it, High Counselor?" Zilaf took a deep breath, his silver eyes flickering with uncertainty. For generations, the Zephyrian Empire has been plagued by a mystery that has confounded our greatest minds. A riddle, if you will, that has been passed down from one High Counselor to the next, each one hoping to find the answer that would unlock its secrets. Zach's eyes widened. "A riddle? What kind of riddle?" Zilaf smiled softly. "It is said that long ago, when the Zephyrian Empire was still young, a great prophet appeared before the first High Counselor. The prophet spoke of a time when the Empire would face its greatest challenge, a threat that would shake the very foundations of our society." Zach nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. "The Liberation Front." Zilaf inclined his head. "Indeed. But the prophet also spoke of a solution, a key that would unlock the path to lasting peace and prosperity for the Zephyrian people. And that key, he said, would come from the stars themselves." Zach felt a shiver run down his spine. "What do you mean, from the stars?" Zilaf's eyes gleamed with a sudden intensity. "The prophet spoke of a species that would come from beyond the stars, a people whose ingenuity and determination would be the key to solving the riddle and saving the Zephyrian Empire from destruction." Zach's heart skipped a beat. "You don't mean—" Zilaf nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "Yes, Captain Thompson. I believe that the prophet was speaking of humanity, of you and your crew." For a moment, Zach was speechless. The idea that humanity could be the key to solving an ancient Zephyrian riddle was almost too much to comprehend. But as he thought about all that had happened since their arrival in Zephyrian space, the alliance they had forged, the battles they had fought, the lives they had saved, he began to see the truth in Zilaf's words. "What do we need to do?" he asked, his voice filled with determination. Zilaf's expression grew serious. "The riddle speaks of a hidden chamber, deep within the heart of the Zephyrian homeworld. A chamber that can only be opened by the hand of a human, using a key that was forged in the fires of ingenuity and tempered by the strength of an unbreakable alliance." Zach's mind was already racing with possibilities. "The replicator," he said, his voice filled with excitement. "We can use it to create the key." Zilaf nodded, his eyes shining with hope. "Yes. And with the key in hand, you and your crew must journey to the hidden chamber and unlock its secrets. Only then will the path to lasting peace be revealed." Over the next several days, Zach and his crew worked tirelessly to unravel the secrets of the Zephyrian riddle. Using the advanced technology of the Endeavour's replicator, they created a series of prototypes for the key, each one more intricate and sophisticated than the last. At the same time, Zephyrian archaeologists and historians scoured the ancient texts and artifacts of their people, searching for clues that might lead them to the location of the hidden chamber. It was a daunting task, but with the help of the Endeavor's advanced scanners and the keen minds of its crew, they slowly began to piece together the puzzle. Finally, after weeks of tireless effort, they had their answer. The hidden chamber was located deep beneath the surface of the Zephyrian homeworld, in a long-forgotten cavern that had been sealed away for generations. Armed with the key and a sense of purpose, Zack and his crew set out on their final mission. They journeyed deep into the heart of the planet, braving treacherous terrain and ancient traps that had been set to guard the chamber's secrets. But nothing could stop them. With ingenuity and determination, they overcame every obstacle in their path, until at last they stood before the massive doors of the hidden chamber. With a sense of reverence and anticipation, Zack stepped forward and inserted the key into the ancient lock. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low rumble that shook the very foundations of the cavern, the doors began to swing open, revealing a sight that took their breath away. Inside the chamber was a vast, glittering expanse of crystal and light, a kaleidoscope of colors and shapes that seemed to shift and change with every passing moment. And at the center of it all, hovering in midair, was a single, pulsing orb of pure energy. As Zack approached the orb, he felt a sense of calm and certainty wash over him. He knew, without knowing how, that this was the answer they had been searching for. The key to unlocking a new era of peace and prosperity for both their species. With a steady hand, he reached out and touched the orb, feeling a rush of energy coursing through his body. And in that moment, he saw it all. The future that awaited them, the challenges they would face, the triumphs they would achieve. A future where humanity and the Zephyrian Empire stood side by side, united in their quest for knowledge and understanding. As the vision faded, Zack turned to his crew, his eyes shining with tears of joy. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "We found the key." And as they emerged from the hidden chamber, blinking in the bright sunlight of a new day, Zack knew that their journey was just beginning. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but with the power of human ingenuity and the strength of their alliance, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would build a new future, a future of endless possibilities and boundless hope, a future where the stars themselves were within their reach, and where no mystery was too great to be solved. As the crew of the Endeavor returned to their ship, they couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder at all they had accomplished. They had set out on a mission of exploration and diplomacy, never dreaming that they would become the key to unlocking an ancient prophecy and ensuring the survival of an entire civilization. But that was the power of human ingenuity, Zack realized. The ability to see possibilities where others saw only obstacles, to find solutions where others saw only problems. It was a power that had carried them across the stars, and would continue to guide them as they explored the wonders of the universe. As he settled into his quarters that night, Zack couldn't help but reflect on all that had happened. The alliances forged, the battles won, the secrets unlocked. It had been a journey unlike any other, filled with danger and discovery, friendship and sacrifice. But through it all, one thing had remained constant: the unbreakable bond between the crew of the Endeavor. Through every trial and tribulation, they had stood together, united by their shared humanity and their unwavering determination to make a difference in the universe. And as he drifted off to sleep, Zack knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together. For they were more than just a crew, more than just a ship. They were a family, bound by the unbreakable ties of friendship and love. And with that knowledge, he knew that anything was possible. That no challenge was too great, no mystery too deep. That together, they could change the course of history itself. As the stars twinkled outside his window, Zack smiled softly to himself. The future was bright, and he couldn't wait to see what adventures lay ahead. For he knew that with his crew by his side, and the power of human ingenuity in their hearts, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. And so, As the Endeavour sailed off into the endless expanse of space, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, Zack knew that they were not just explorers, not just diplomats. They were the guardians of a new era, the keepers of a sacred trust. And he would do whatever it took to ensure that trust was never broken. For the sake of his crew, for the sake of the Zephyrian Empire, and for the sake of all the wonders that the universe had yet to reveal. With a sense of purpose and determination, Captain Zack Thompson settled into his chair on the bridge of the Endeavour. "Set a course for the stars," he said, his voice ringing with confidence and hope. "We have a universe to explore and a future to build." And as the ship leaped forward into the vast expanse of space, he knew that no matter what lay ahead, they would face it head-on, armed with the greatest weapon of all, the indomitable human spirit.